Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. It's Wendy here from Little Nest Crafts, and we're going to have another session today in the series hosted by Suzanne over at Non-Stop Paper Crafts, and who brought out this lovely kit called the Librarian, which is available over in her Ko-fi shop, or on her Etsy, in her Etsy shop, details of which you'll find below this video. And it involves, it incorporates 20 pages, all to do with library themes and book theme, and it's lovely. And for those of you who watched my first video in this librarian series, you know that I'm making a little journal with the kit. So this is how far I've got so far, and if that makes sense, this is how far I've got. I used a cover that came with the kit to cover the book, and I put some lace down the spine because it was just the right size, although it does appear to have lifted a little bit, so I'll put a bit of glue on there. And then I've been filling in and doing a bit behind the scenes of putting the ephemera into the journal, so that we can, when Suzanne brings out her freebies every week, that we can make projects to go inside this little journal. And Suzanne has kindly given us a freebie today. That's a piece that was left over from the main kit. So I'll just put that to one side. I'll show you inside there in a moment. But these were available on today's freebie kit, and there's lots of lovely ATC type cards here with ex libris on it, which means from the book, or from the library in Latin, I believe. So you've got those to play with there, and all I've done is ink around the corners. So you've got this book belongs to, and another image there, a book image, and so I'm going to be working with a couple of those today. I've still got my book tabs, which I'll put on at the end, and she also gave us, I didn't realise that she was going to be doing this, because that actually goes better with the colours in this book than the background that I put on there. I chose the blues because there are blues in this, but this goes absolutely perfect. But I was itching to get started, being impatient, and if I'd have waited a week, I could have used that to cover the inside. I could actually go over it if I wanted to, but rather than waste paper, I've done that already, and we can use these for doing something else. And my plan is to make an envelope. So what I've done is, because I printed this 2 to a page, this actual, it was an A4 sheet, but I printed 2 to a page, so it came out that side. And all I've done is I'm going to make an envelope which is 5.5 inches, I think, by 5.5, and I'm going to use my envelope maker board to do. Let me just move those out of the way. To do a little envelope, because I'm a bit short of envelopes inside the kit for now. I'm sure Suzanne will be making one or two in the next couple of weeks, but being impatient and wanting to crack on with this project, I'm going to make my own. So we'll put that to one side, and then all I do here is look at the measurements on here, and it was 5 3/4, so I think that was what the size of my paper was. Yeah, as near as 2. So for 5 3/4 square paper, it will give me a 3 by 3.5 inch envelope, which is perfect for this size journal. And it tells you to score at 2 5/8. So we put the paper in. For those of you who haven't seen these scoreboard envelope makers, really simple to do. You've got all your instructions on here. You just look at the paper size you've got, and obviously it works in square papers, so you can use your 6 by 6 papers to use up your stash if you wish. And so if you're using a 6 by 6, you just look at 6 by 6 paper size, and it will give you a 3 by 4 envelope, and it's telling you to score at 2 5/8. So here we're going to do exactly the same, 2 5/8. So you look at your 2 5/8 reading on the page there, on the scoreboard there, which is there. And then you punch your board, and then you score down the groove there, putting your pokey tool into the opening that's there. And then you turn it round, and your next line follows where you've scored. So you follow your score line there. And it's very difficult to see actually on this, but I can feel it. So I think I'm more or less, oops, there. And then you score again. And then you just keep turning. And you score down there. And then same again, you follow down that score line down there. And I must be slightly off somewhere. Hold on 1 second. Yeah. Because I'm scoring on there, so I've mismeasured somewhere. Let's have a look. Yes, I've scored not straight. Hang on one moment. I should have checked with this part here. Right. There we go. So what we do now is we fold along the score lines like so. And then this gives us our lovely little envelope there. And I might need to just cut it a little bit because it has gone a bit awry there. I don't know why, because them two are level. Let me just see if I take that down there and just cut that little bit off. One second, everybody, sorry. I was just looking for my scissors. Normally you get a perfect envelope, but I must have not followed the right, I've not followed the score line properly. So it put my envelope slightly ski-whiff. So pop that back in there, move that to one side and move my bits over to there. Oh, and sorry, these scoreboards have got a corner rounder as well, that's built in. So I haven't done that properly even. There we go. So that's that. We'll get rid of those little bits into the bin. Right, so I'm just going to ink around the edges. There we are. There we are. Lovely. So we'll ink that, glue that down. And then I'm just going to ink inside the envelope there. And then that way you can either hang it over your page like so, and we'll fill it with ephemera, but I want to do something on the front there just to make it a little bit less, and I think what we'll do is we'll pop a bit of book page on. So if I follow that line, and I'm just going to tear it along the bottom, and then just ink along the bottom there. And then snip that off there. And then we'll put some glue on. So I hope that you're all well, everybody, that you all had a good weekend, and for those of you who are having a public holiday, that you're enjoying being off work, because it's a public holiday here in the UK. So everybody will be would have headed last Friday to a holiday destination, no doubt. There we go. So that's that. It just breaks up the pattern a little bit, and then let's have a look and see what came in this package here. Just pop the top on my glue. Now we've got a book. Oh, there's a nice lady there that we could put on the front. Oh, we've got a selection of books, which is quite nice. Oh, let's have a look at this one. Yeah, I like it, but not on the front of this. Oh, we've got a rose. And how beautiful is that? I'm always drawn to the flowers. Oh, you've got a bookshop. That'll look nice on one of the pages, I think. I think I'm going to use that flower. And I'm going to get my trusty tool. And I've got some that's been tea dyed, I think, here. Let's have a look. I was given this at the retreat. Last year. So I think we'll pop a bit of that behind and scrunge it up a little bit. Try and, I don't think the edges are going to fray quite. Or they might do. There we go. Yeah, and then we'll get our beacon 3-in-1. And my tweezers. No, I've put them to one side. I'll have to use my fingers for now. Maybe if I use my scissors a little bit. Just to draw that in. And then we'll pop some glue on. Just wondering actually if I could maybe turn that round a little bit. Let's have a look. Let's pop that there. Oops. Because it's a little bit longer on that side. There we go. Yeah, that's better. And then what we'll do is we'll get one of the sentiments, or one of the words, should I say, that's with the kit. And what we got? Fairy tale, Enid Blyton books, reading, poetry, happy ever after. That might be nice. Let's just have a look. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for that. So we'll just cut it to size. And then get our inker. And then pop some glue on the bottom. So you'll have to let me know how you've spent your bank holiday, your your public holiday, whether you've done anything exciting. Oh, excuse me, my husband's coming in with the dogs. One sec. So that's my husband just coming in with the dogs after taking them for a walk, and hopefully they'll settle a little bit now because they're a high energy dog. Right, so I think they're slightly too long to go in there. I could trim a little bit off the bottom, but I want to make a secret writing spot with that. We can put something else in here, so I'll just put that to one side to dry, and before I do that I'm just going to ink that edge there and around there. I think that looks rather nice. So you've got a lovely envelope there. Now then, I've shown you how to do these before, so I'm going to make a little secret writing spot because I love putting these in my journals. And what I'm going to do is I'll use this one, and I'm going to use one of these for the back. So just make sure they're roughly the same size. I might have to trim one down a little bit because you need them to match perfectly. So let's have a look. I'll trim a bit off both the sides here. And a bit on there. Because this one was a bit narrower, and that's as near as, and then we've just got to trim a little bit off the top or the bottom, and I'm going to do it off the bottom. So that's that. So now what I'm going to do is put some ink along the edges. And you ink all 4 edges of this. Try not to put too much, because what happens is it spreads and it reduces the amount of room for your card that you're going to be putting in the middle. So what we do now is, have I glued the top? No, I haven't. So we'll put a tiny bit of glue along there, and then we'll glue these together. Make sure that both edges are together. You can trim it down a little bit more if you wish. Like there's a little tiny bit there. But if you ink your edges, that helps you hide any white areas that might be showing through. And then this will be perfect, I think, to go inside. It'll probably need trimming off the edge a little bit, so we'll do that now. And then all you do then is you get your paper trimmer or your scissors, and you take a section of the top away. Like so. Oops. So you've got these two sections, and then this part you open up, because there'll be a little pocket in there because you've only glued along the edge, and then you pop this inside, like so, and that'll be glued down, and then you measure then, like so, how far down the bottom you want to come, bearing in mind your bottom's going to be glued as well. So to test it, open up your pocket, and look what I've done is I've put it on upside down. So I'm just wondering if I can peel that open without damaging it too much. Yeah, I can. And we'll just turn it round. So sorry about that, everybody. Don't do like I do and glue it the wrong way. So I hope it doesn't affect the image. Hopefully not. If it does, oh, I don't need to glue that end now because we've cut it already. Oh, I do. It's the top end. It's the other end. It's the other end I need to leave unglued. Let me just get my tissue. And we'll make sure there's no glue on that top edge there. And bottom. So we'll re-stick them back down. There we go. No harm done, as they say. So that's that. I'll just give it a little bit longer to dry. And then, same as we did before, we'll open that out gently and pop this inside. And hopefully it will connect and be okay. Yeah. There we go. So there we are. You've got a hidden writing spot for your journal. This is upside down here, but we can hide that by putting a label or something on there. So let's see what we've got in the stash. We've got anything that's library related. It's a bit long, that one. That's probably not long enough, and it's a bit big, the writing on there. So let's see. Yeah, I quite like that one. or that could be that one. We've got carte postale. I think it's going to be the carte postale. Just try one more. See what we've got in here. Yeah, I quite like that one. So we'll pop that on there just to hide my faux pas. And then that should pull out, which it does, because we've not glued it into the top section, which we've got to do now. So I'm going to turn that over and have that at the back. And then just put a bead of glue along the front and the back edges. Making sure that you're fairly central inside of here, otherwise it will affect how far you've got to place your card, and you'll find it'll be wonky. So we'll quickly check before that dries that it's still okay, and as you can see there, you've got to have it fairly straight, otherwise it'll not go in your card properly. So let me just make sure that we've got plenty of room at the bottom for the card to sit nicely. There we go. There. Okay, so that's our little hidden hidden writing spot. There we are. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an eyelet in here and put a dangly something or other on there. So I've got a bulb clip, and we shall get an eyelet ordered some more of these, but I ordered the wrong size. So I'm waiting for another order to come from Amazon, because I go through them. Because I do like to put eyelets and things in my tags. So we'll pop that in there. Put the reinforcer on the back. There we go. And then we'll get a nice little charm and maybe a word or something to go on there. Let's have a look. What words have we got in here? I'm just trying to think if we've got one with a bit of space on. That would be a good one. On the words there it says fairy tale. So we'll cut that out. And put some ink round. And I'm just going to ink the back a little bit to distress the back as well. And then with my hole punch in this, I'm just going to use the small hole, and I'm going to make a little hole in there. Just clear my desk a bit. And then we'll see if we've got some lace or something. We've got a bit of lace, grungy lace here. I'll put a little strip. That's fairy tale. Just pop that through there, and then we'll clip it into there. There we are. And then that is a nice little secret pocket. Sorry, a secret writing spot to put in a pocket. So what we'll do now is we'll find a nice little spot in our journal. To pop some of these things in. Excuse my arm. And I've lost my... There it is, my little glue top. So what I'll do, I'll give you a little flick through as well of how far I've got so far. So we've done the cover, but I need to make a topper for the cover. So it might be that we put something like this on the front of it there. And I want some pockets on the inside. So basically all I've done is I've sewn the signatures in, and the pockets that came with the kit and the ephemera that came with the kit I've used to fill the pockets. I've got a little stamp that does handmade signatures on there. So I've put a signature on the top and it says John Parry. Nice Welsh name there, Parry. and then I've just put some tulle, and I've made my own little note labels here, because I've got an assortment of stamps, and I thought, well, you write notes in the library, don't you, as well? The librarian must make notes of sometimes, you know, to do correspondence and things. So I thought that was an apt one to use, although not specifically library themed. And then these bits were out of my stash. And then I had, this was left over from the cover, so I've made it into a long skinny tag, and I've used some book page there, put the little boy on it and used a number on there. And then this was just a plain, well, it's not a plain tag, but it's just, I haven't done anything with that because I like the image of that as is. I've left that plain, as it were. And I'm going to decorate the pocket here with something, but I don't know what yet. And it might be that, you know, one of these could go in this pocket as well, you know, to fill it up a little bit. But I'll see if there's a free pocket throughout the journal. We'll have a look. That's a little flap, and I haven't done anything with that yet. This is a little folio, a little image of a folio, so I might make that into a folio yet, I don't know. And then we've got the centre pages are plain, lots and lots of writing space in here. That's one of the tags that were in the kit, and as I say, I've just put eyelets in. That was one of the ATC cards. I've left that as is because I like that, and I've just done one of the words from the kit and put some books and some tulle on there. So as you can see, there's still loads to fill in this little journal. I've used one of the a tab from my stash and used that as a page tab. I've put one of the words, one of the title up there. This is another of the stamps that belong to me, and it says insert date here. So I've put that on a bulb clip and just hung it from the tab. And I need to ink on the back here just to take the whiteness off. It's funny how you spot things as you going through. So hope you don't mind me doing it now because I'll forget. So that's that little tab there, and that's another one of the words, look, glossary. I've put a butterfly here, and it was two sorts of, you know, two different sorts of butterfly, and one was slightly smaller than the other, so I've put one on top of the other just to give it more dimension. So you've got like 4 wings. That looks as though it's glued down that bit. Oh no, yeah, it has a little bit. So you've got top and bottom pairs of wings there, which I like the effect of that. And I'll put some gems or something in the middle there. This is the start of the second signature, and this was a pocket. So if you see there, that part was attached to this green part here, and in the kit, oops a daisy, in the kit that would make you a tag with a pocket on the back. But what I've done is I've glued the pocket to the page, brought the flap round on this side and made it into a tuck spot. Now I was going to glue down the side edge there, but I thought you could actually write on here, pull it forward. So all I've done is I've left that free. And when I was stamping John Parry onto the little cards, onto the little library cards, I didn't check whether my stamp was upside down, very similar to the pocket that I've just made. So I've had to cut that off because it was upside down on the library card. So I've used it as a little pocket rather than waste it. And these little tabs can go in the front there, and they were just from the kit. And then there was 2 more tags from the kit, and they go in this pocket around here. I've left that one as is because I like it as is, and I've just got to ink the back quickly on there, just a little bit. There we go. So that'll sit in there, and those 2 will sit in there. So I've just put eyelets and bits of string, and then these were from my stash, the clock and the number, and then overdue is there for your overdue library books. So what else have we got? Belly band here, and I used that from the kit, and it's just an envelope, and I've used one of the authors to put on the front of the book face there. Another tag with a bulb clip, some lace and case file. That's another one of my hand stamped stamps. And a little tag here, and I put a key that was from my stash on the front of there, and just done a little cluster with a number on the front there. Here I've done a little tuck spot using some of the ephemera from my stash, and these are from my stash as well. There's a couple of railway tickets there, so I've used those in that little pocket. And there's a postage label there, which you get postage labels in a library, you know, when they're sending books off. And underneath the tuck spot, I've done a tab. This was one of the tags that came in the kit, and I've just put some book page, some tulle, and one of the little lady images. And this was ephemera out the kit, and one of my note homemade labels there. And this was from my stash, just a bit of a floral strip, and I thought it'd look nice on that edge because it's got the blue along there. And here's a pocket from the kit, and that's the library card that I did the stamp upside down on, and I cut the top of it off, but rather than waste it, I've used it there, and I think I'm going to pop that in this pocket here, my secret writing spot. And oops, has he stuck in there? Let me just take that out. Yep, let me just pop this inside. If ever your things get stuck in the pockets, which they sometimes do, just free it up gently with your ruler. There we go. And you know, they'll come out cleanly. It's only a tiny bit it was held in with on there, look. So there we go, that's fine. So we'll pop that in there with the label and the lacy bit. There. They never lie properly flat, these bulb clips, which can be a bit annoying at times. There we go. Another little tuck spot there with one of the pieces of the ephemera from the kit, and same at the back there. I've made it into a little tuck spot. That was like a ticket, I think, with the books at the bottom, and it's got some perforations along here, so I used that as a fold line and stuck that down on 3 sides, and did the same on there. I just stuck it along there to make like a little tuck spot on this card. I've just used some of my own ephemera and decorated it with a snippet of book page and another of my own labels, catalogues, because you get catalogues in libraries as well, don't you? So that's that. And then here, this was just the piece of ephemera in the kit, and I've made a flip out and with some writing space there. And what I thought I would do is maybe pop that there as well to make another little tuck spot. So I think we'll do that with that one by just gluing a little bit down the sides there, along the bottom and up there, up there. There we are. Just get make sure it's glued well down. There we are. And have we got a bit of card that will go in there? That's too wide. We'll leave that for a minute. I'll find something else to go in there. We'll make something. So you've got a little tuck spot there. This is an envelope from my stash, and I've just put in a couple of postcards in there. And I will put some paper clips on these to hold everything in place. So we've got somewhere to pop this little pocket. Let's have a look. This little envelope. Maybe, let's see, maybe towards the front, and then we can work our way backwards. Nope. I like to do it on a plainer page. There we go. Yeah, I think that looks nice there. And we can use this as a tuck spot for one of these cards maybe. Let's have a look what we got. And I'll get a little paper clip. So, where are we? Lovely little paper clips these, but I can't remember where I got them from. I'm not sure if it was a site on Etsy or whether I got them from Amazon. But they're teeny tiny, but they are quite difficult to open, and you do have to be careful how you put them on so you don't rip your pages. Oops. There we go. So we'll pop that in there. There we are. And then just give that a bit of an ink around the edge there. Okay. could have this as a tuck spot somewhere. Let's have a look. There's quite a bit in this one. You could do that, or you could do that and have this as a tuck spot as well. Yeah, I think that looks nice together. So I know I'm teaching you to suck eggs. I keep saying that all the time. But it is just a craft along, and you know, it's just showing you my process of putting the pages together and then using the ephemera to either decorate things with or making your own standalone pieces. But I do like to include the ephemera that comes with the kits. This needs a bit of something on, so you could, what I'll do is on that one, where's he gone now? I'll just pop that on. Don't know whether I like that. Yeah, we'll wait and see what Suzanne brings out in the way of ephemera for adding more things on. I could put a flower or something on there. I want to make a little glassine bag to go in here. Right, let's have a look and see whether we can use, maybe that could go there as a tuck spot. Yeah, I like that. There we go. And we'll find another piece of the ephemera to go in there. And I think I'm going to use Alice there. And then here, I might do another hidden tuck spot with that one and use the leftover of this. So I'll put that to one side because I will do that. And then this card can go somewhere else, and that. So I'm going to go away and make this, and I'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. So what I've done is I've made this secret writing spot. There we go. I'm just going to round the corners with these little corner rounder. Did I do that one properly? Yeah. So that'll sit in there nicely. And the same again, I've put a little eyelet in there, and I've got one of my little labels, little case file there, and I've got a piece of this coffee dyed lace which I'll put through there, and here I've got a mini envelope here from my stash, which has got a letter inside it folded up, so that gives you extra writing space in there. And I've just put a little eyelet hole in there. I'm not going to put a ring thingy in there, eyelet in there, because it'll make it too bulky sitting alongside here. And I'm going to pop that on there like that. And then, and it's got a mind of its own, look, it wants to go backwards. So we'll find a little pocket or something to go and pop this one in. I suppose I could put it in there. Oh no, I didn't want to do that because it's got the house. So let's have a look. Maybe it could go in that pocket there, because it needs to be a fairly substantial pocket. I'll pop that one behind like that. Stay down, stay down. There we go. And then I can pop that one in there with that one. So that's it for today, everybody. I hope that you like what we've done so far, and as you can see, it's becoming quite a chunky monkey already, and we're only in week 1 of the challenge, but not to worry. We can always put a nice sturdy closure on it to hold everything in place. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and until then, stay safe everybody, and enjoy the rest of this month's challenge with Suzanne over at Non-Stop Paper Crafts. Bye for now. Bye.